or I can see. It could be that that it will come in later on. It's like sometimes you come into information comes and it's processed in a different way for different people, and so you're getting information, and then later on, like we may talk about something. Let's say like we want to do a ceremony around New Year's or something, and all of a sudden I'll get a picture in my head, okay? And that may be the information that had come in earlier, but now I'm getting it because it went into a file system in my energy field earlier, the information. And sometimes you're growing because new neural pathways are being built. What's the hardest thing is when all of a sudden emotions are coming up, someone triggers something, and all of a sudden you're angry and you're thinking, oh, I've been working on that forever. Why is it coming up now? Well, the light came in and something that you had crystallized in your energy field in a file system came up, and now it's time to release it. And so if I can settle down enough and think, okay, I get that, and I can bless that, and I can be, it's like being aware, awake, and able, and now I can send it back up to God. I can send it not up, what is up, right? I can send it back to God's source for transformation, but and sometimes I can just say, okay, thank you, and I can thank that person if there's a person involved, or I can just thank the situation, or I can just say, yeah, I remember that, and I bless that now, and now I send it back to God's source for transformation, And sometimes I'll just say, okay, divine team, I get that, I don't have to go through it again because I've gone through it and I got the lesson. So now I send it back to God's source for transformation. So sometimes things like that that things are happening. Sometimes, it's so fast. Another thing that's happening that the information that the energy is happening, or that manifestations are happening now faster. You may want to let's say you may want to find something, or a book, or you may want to go out and do something, and all of a sudden you get a phone call, or the book happens, or things that used to take weeks or maybe months are starting to happen overnight, or are in a couple days, and I'm finding that interesting. It's like having a door closed because you want to do a certain ceremony and the door closes. Then all of a sudden a thought drops into your mind, and you get this whole picture of another potential possibility, and you make a phone call, and all of a sudden things start going into line, and within 24 hours the new situation is a done deal, and you're there saying, holy moly, and it happens that fast. And another thing is that all of a sudden you feel you could the fact that you're taking a break, and you find that that's okay, and you're finding that you're able to set boundaries more. That do I have to do that right now? Can I take a break? And that whole thing about taking vacations, sabbaticals, ministers used to take sabbaticals, and we can get into, I got into compassion fatigue, and so you need to renew not just your body, but the spirit, so that you can actually be more creative and be more helpful. And so, Sabbath is also not just space-time, Sabbath, a day of rest, but it's also a concept. What is Sabbath? What is taking a sabbatical mean? And I think we all, not just ministers, but we all need to see what is rest, and that we need to look at that really self-care and taking a break and taking a rest. And what does that mean for us in nurturing our own body, our own spirit, and our mind? And because that helps us not see just body, mind, spirit. We've been doing it piecemeal, this piece and this piece and this piece, but we need to come into not just balance, but harmony. It's that third piece, it's that Trinity. So we come into harmonization, because that allows us to be coherent. And that's an interesting word, right? To come into coherence and alignment, because coming into coherence is when we start aligning with the song of our soul.
You mentioned earlier the transformation of the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And the transformation of the butterfly really speaks to me, because the caterpillar completely dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
The caterpillar is reduced to its component elements,
Mm-hmm.
and then by the magic of evolution and creativity, those elements are reassembled into something completely different and marvelous and different and fully alive.
Right.
And what I've been hearing people saying is that we've been feeling that, me, lots of other folks too, we've been feeling that sense of being completely disassembled.
Right. It's very Osiris, isn't it? Where they dismembered him.
Like, where did I leave my left foot? Not where do I put my left foot now, but where did I leave it? It was here a minute ago, and yet there is such a sense of anticipation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, absolutely.
Knowing that this is part of what the butterfly knew, even when he was a caterpillar and didn't know it then, is that we are in the middle of a process of becoming.
Yeah. And isn't that the great initiation?
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. And that's what's so interesting when you talked about dissolving, because again, the Osiris, where he was dismembered, and then Isis had to bring all those parts together, put them together, which is where you get the term remembering.
Yep.
And so we have to remember who we are. Yeah, the God self, and we have to be dissolved and allow ourselves. And what's interesting, because the ego sees it as a death, but a death is really rebirth, isn't it? It's rebirthing into that higher state of beingness. And so right now, in a lot of ways, for different people, we're in the tweener stage. We're in that we have one foot on this side of the chasm, the gap. There's this valley, and there's this other one where they're going, and we keep going like this, and we have to take that leap. I had a dream one time, and it was like one of those dream meditations where it's part dream, part meditation, and I was on this side, and and a rope was being thrown to me, and I was there looking at, saying, one of those holy moly moments, and I took and this happened twice. One time, and I did two different ways. One was the gap, and one was the cliff, and the cliff was at one time was the one where you look at it and you have to jump off the cliff, and then you find you're flying, right? That it's okay. But this one was a later one where I had to take a rope and I went across, and there was like this angelic figure at this doorway, and I went through the doorway, and then went into this cave, and this cave door opened, and there was this huge library. Then after that, of course, is when I downloaded all that stuff for Emerson, and I guess about a month after that, but I was opening those books, and you see fire letters, and the fire letters start dissolving into language you can see, and then I woke up. And so it was so it's, you never know once you have the download how soon after that things are going to manifest. But now everything's manifesting much faster, if we allow. And the whole thing is that breath, that breathing, and allowing the light, because that light that's coming in is carrying the information, and it's allowing it to go down through the body and anchor. It's very important to anchor it so that you don't just manifest it on another dimension, but it actually manifests through you here,
And I think part of that is just the awareness that transformation is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, people are scared what it
look like. Finished. We're never done.
No.
There's always more growing. There's always more learning. There's always more becoming in process. And I think one of the wonderful things that's happening, at least in the environment I'm in, the people that have been around in the last couple of months, is that people are actually welcoming the possibilities of enhancing life, the possibilities of, the first question that I'm going to ask you in just a second here, the possibilities of conscious evolution.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, Sharri, is that a lot of times people will be very excited about what they've done or what they're doing. And then with this new energy coming in, a couple days later, they'll think, I'm not as excited about what I was doing as I was last week, and they don't know why, and that's again having to then, you and I were talking about having to step back and just sit with it, and going inside and sitting with it and allowing the frequency and this is a perfect time for the holidays, for the new year, because a new year means doors are opening, and you can look back at the old, but it's sort of like that hasta la bye bye, it's like blessing it, and what needs to go forward with you will. What has the frequency of the new will go with you, but what needs to pass away will, and it will never. It was never in naught. It has helped you be what you are today, and it has helped affect others what they are. So it has helped build the foundation. There is the foundation. Now you're working on the next floor. You have, when you build a tower, a new tower, you have to build the foundation, and then you leave it to settle and ripen, right? You need to let it be there before you build the next floor. So what you're letting go now is what is that foundation. So you built the foundation. Now it's the next. It's sort of like the amenities. Now you have to put the amenities in, and the new systems in place. Yep.
So I'm going to ask you those 4 questions now.
Okay.
And the first one is, how does all of this that you were talking about, how does all of this translate into support, encourage, expand conscious evolution?
Of course. Well, it supports it as long as you don't go unconscious, right? Oh my God. Yeah, it's because we're here. We're here on purpose. We're here to, and for many, if they understand, now the true ministry begins. And I'm not just talking about ministers. We all have a ministry, because what's ministry? You're ministering to, you're serving. You're here to serve, but you're here to serve the greater collective through radiating the light of the greater self. So, so just the fact that you are allowing who you are in truth to reveal itself in its fullness is a ministry, you see, because you're serving, you are informing the field. And that helps everybody be more conscious because because when your field, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the soccer game, when you go to the wrestling match, when you go to a movie, your field is informing someone else's field. You're informing the whole collective there. And entanglement, you're informing people on the other side of the world. When you're on a computer, it's going out through the systems, you know. So you're affecting more than you ever. The ripple effect is real. And so what does that do? It does this to the unconscious people. You act as a catalyst. So you are a spiritual catalyst that's awakening people on levels that you never thought possible.
So that's the perfect segue to the second question, which is, how does all of this support, enhance, encourage, advance world peace?
Well, you know, people have to have that peace inside them to outpicture it. So there's two ways, you know, there's people will either consciously work on releasing what they need to in order to allow more of that light, which is, you know, the light of truth is the light of love. It's the light of peace. When you are loving, when you are being within truth, which is also integrity, which is the vibration of integrity means aligning to the truth of who you are, you know, and what is that? That's also the vibration of love. It's God in action. It's the in-breath and out-breath of the divine. So that is, we see it, and when people are on that vibe, when they're on that wavelength, then how they're reacting is what we call peace. And those that are unconscious, they find that very scary because it's not usual for them, and they're finding that what their safety little box, because that's made them safe, that's made them feel safe. It's breaking apart and it's shaking. It's like it's their personal tornado and storm happening, and so it's breaking apart. And so they're going to have to face their own manifestations, the structures that they built to hem them in, and that eventually will bring peace, but at a cost that they may not be willing to pay. But it's going to eventually bring peace because God is, you know? And so it just may not always, how we get there, be what we would like to have it look like. We don't know what it's going to look like. All we can do is hold the highest level of consciousness we can, and no divine order, no God is, hold the high watch, you know? That's what we have to do. And if it means that peace is here, you know, be still and know. You know, when we had the tornado the other day, or we had an alert, a storm alert here, and there was a tornado watch, and the clouds were showing it, and Uta Maria and I, we went into the light and expanded and did that breath work and did some chanting and did be still and know, and asked that if the tornado had to land, that it not hurt any people or property, if that was divine order. And we breathed and brought in the light, and almost immediately everything brightened. The rain came down, and be still and know. So it has to do with going within into here, and anchoring that pillar of light and knowing truth.
Okay, now this next question is going to be different, because you're in a different position from anybody who's ever answered this question before. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like, because it's the close your eyes and use your imagination question.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that every single thing goes exactly the way you want it to go, every encounter, every event, every relationship, every activity for the next 10 years. 10 years from now, what does Dr. Missy Higgenbotham look like?
Well, I am trying not to have things look like I want to look like, because if there's a way that, beyond, well, I'd like this cake to look like this, or at that level, but when you start looking at creation, when you start looking like and I'll give you an example. When I was up in North Dakota, and there was this big blizzard coming in, and people came to me and said, well, what should we do? And I said, well, pray, of course. And so they all got in a circle, and they started singing and dancing up a storm and praying, and then they found that the storm part of it went north, part of it went south, and everybody was safe, but it split. And it found out that half of them visualized it went north, half of them visualized it went south. And so they were, and so when you ask a question with what would it look like, you see, so I don't really want to say, well, this is what Missy would want this to look like, because what if what I want it to look like is not as great as what it could look like? And so I have to be very careful on what it could look like, and how I could put it in such a way and so then it becomes a feeling, not what it would look like, but what would it feel like.
I knew you were going to tell me that.
Yeah, because that's the way of manifestation. What would it feel like? So if I could say, okay, 10 years from now, when I go outside, this is how I would feel: full of peace, full of love, full of joy. When I would go here and meet someone, I could feel the love of the divine, as opposed to, well, I would see less McDonald's, or I would see the roads all this way, or I would see more trees. Do you see? What if I wanted to see more trees along that? But what if more trees meant it would have devastation over here, or it would be wrong for the animals or something? Do you see? That's not mine to do. We have to be very careful in what we want, or what we, those shoulds. It should be this way, or it must be this way, as opposed to what really is ours to do. And ours is to uphold the holy and pure consciousness. And so ours is, and in doing that, it's a feeling and a knowingness. And so it's the beingness. So it's 10 years from now, it's not what I want to see, but what I want to feel be. So I would like to have to be filled with love. I would like to have to have that feeling of joy and peace and love, and be able to outpicture that in every action I do, in every interaction with others. That's what I would, but it's not seeing that, it's feeling that, because then everything I touch is a blessing. Everything I emanate is a blessing. And what would result in that? I have no idea, but I don't want to pin it down. I don't want to concretize it, because then it's less than what it could be.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah. I got it. Okay, so here's the last question.
Okay.
Will you come back?
Sure. I love you, Sharri. I love the talk with you.
So I'm going to put you down for 11/25/25.
So is that November next year?
November of next year. That's also November of next week. Next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Next year. My husband and I are going on a cruise.
In November?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So how about December?
I'll give you December. I will. I'll give you December. A week after, you went 2 weeks later than that?
Yeah, how about or the first week or the second week of December would be great.
All right, so I'll give you the second Tuesday in December.
Second Tuesday of December would be great.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. And folks, I want you to be sure to come back next week because we're going to have a very interesting speaker, guest. Our guest is Reverend Jenny Evans. She's been here before. She's been a pulpit minister, but she's a focus minister now, and her ministry is animal communication, and it's just fascinating. So don't miss it. Have a great weekend. Have a wonderful New Year's. I'll see you next time, and don't forget that I love you. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing